All right, so we're combining like terms today. Okay. Now, so like terms are exactly what it says, like terms. The properties that we have learned are going to help us with this, all right? But I'm going to show you a little trick that I've used in the past that really seems to make a difference. Like terms are anything that have the same, you've got constant terms and variable terms, right? Constant terms are numbers, okay? Constant terms are numbers, and so you've got variable terms, and you may want to make some notes on the back of this paper or somewhere just to have there, or in your OMGs. You can get your OMG out. Variable terms are letters with a coefficient. Letters with the coefficient. So, for example, 2x. This is a variable term, and the coefficient is 2. Okay? The variable here, the variable in this term is x. Okay? The variable is x. The letters can be any letter of the alphabet. The letters don't matter, okay? They do matter when you start combining them, but they don't. But a variable term, a variable can be any letter, all right? So we have variable terms and we have constant terms. And constant terms are a number. And several years ago, I used this. Do y'all know that that right there is not just a hashtag, but it's also the symbol for number? It also, all right, so I did that one day, and one of my students said, hey, that's hashtag constant. So we started doing this. Hashtag constant. You know what a hashtag is, right? A hashtag means number, right? So hashtag constant means it's a number. And that helps you remember that a constant term is just a number. Okay? Does that make sense? Hashtag constant. And the thing is, a constant term doesn't change. A constant term, it's exactly what it is. If it's constant, it's never changing, right? And so if we look over here, 7 is a constant term. 7 is 7. 7 can't be anything other than 7, can it? If I tell you you got 7 of something, you got 7. You don't have 8, you don't have 9, you don't have 10. You have 7. Okay? A variable term, if something varies, what does it do? It changes. Exactly. It changes. And a variable term, these are both variable terms, those values will change depending on R. Right? What operation's going on right here with 7? Multiplication. So 7R means that is equal to 7 times R, which could be anything, right? Right? So if I tell you R equals 2, if R equals 2, then what is this equal to? 14. And if I tell you R equals 6, what is this equal to? 42. And if I tell you R equals 10, what is this equal to?
70.
And if I tell you R equals -1, what is this equal to? -7. So do you see how the value of this changes depending on R, right? It varies. That's why it's a variable term. Because the value of it will vary depending on R. Right? Is everybody with me? That makes sense, doesn't it? All right, so. Has everybody got all this? Give me a hand. Raise your hand if you need a minute. Hold a 1 up in the air if you need 1 minute. Okay, good. I'm going to give you about 1 minute to get all these notes. Alexa, set a 1-minute timer. Okay, so now let's go over. Let's do this one. Let's do this one. All right, so here's the catch. Variable terms have to be combined with like terms, meaning they got to have the same variable. Okay? A's can't go with B's. X's can't go with Y's. Okay? Constant terms can only be combined with constants. Okay? I just want to make sure you had it. I don't normally see your whole face, so I just want to make sure you had one. But, all right, so what we're going to do is use the commutative property. The commutative property. Because the commutative property says I can move this stuff around and still be okay, right? I can move it around and I'm still okay, right? So commutative also and associative means I can group things and be okay, right? So what I'm going to be doing is moving stuff around, grouping together variables that are the same, constants, okay? And I have found that the easiest way to do that is by sorting it into like a little mini tree map. All right? So we're going to do like little mini tree maps. Watch how this is going to work. So on your paper, right on the problem, we're going to just draw us a little mini tree map. And then we're going to start sorting. Okay? Sometimes our tree map might have 2 branches. Sometimes it might have 3. It could have 4. It could have 10. Depending on how many different terms are in our expression, okay? So, I'm going to start sorting. We're going to kind of play like an I Spy. And we're going to start with variables, because variables are our variable terms in an equation. We want to put the variable terms first anyway, okay? So, I see R's. Do y'all see R's? So, we're going to group all of our R's together. And what property tells me I can group them together? Associative. And what property tells me I can move them? Commutative. So I'm going to move them and group them. Here we go. 7R and 1R. I'm putting those together. I'm just going to put them, I'm sorting. I'm just grouping, just like you sorted colors in kindergarten. Okay? I have a constant term of 7 that I'm going to stick over here. Because it can't go over here with these. Okay? It's all that over there by itself. All right? Any questions about that? We grouping and sorting. Now I'm just going to put these together. 7R plus 1R is what? 8R. And that's just a pop. And so there's my expression. 8R plus 7. That's the answer. You can't do anything else. Because this is an expression. What's the difference in an expression and an equation?
What?
What's the difference in an expression and equation?
Why you just moved the 7?
I just grouped them. I sorted them. I sorted them into variables and constants. My variable terms went here. My constant terms went there. Okay? That's the variable R, really. The variable R went here. And constants went there. And the reason I do that is because we might have a variable, we might have more than one variable in an expression. If you look down like at number 18, 19, 15, we'll get to some in just a minute that have more than one variable. Okay? I'm not going to do all of these. I'm going to do about half, and then I'm going to let you do about half. Okay? Nobody can tell me why this is, what's the difference in, all right, I'm going to write this up here. 7R plus 7 plus 1R. 7R plus 7 plus 1R equals 20. This is an expression. This is an equation. Wait, what's the difference in those?
One has an answer, one doesn't.
One has an answer and one doesn't. One has an answer. The difference in an expression and an equation is that right there. And expressions are simplified. Equations are solved. You cannot solve an expression. You can only simplify it. Okay? The only way you can get a value for an expression is if you are given R. If they tell you what R is. Expressions can only be simplified. Okay? Is everybody with me? All right. So let's look at, let's see. Let's go ahead and look at number 2. This was number 1. Let's look at number 2. Z plus 15 minus 9. Okay? I'm going to sort this into variables and constants. What's my variable term right there? Z. What's my constant terms? 15 and what?
Negative.
Remember, we are lumping this together because that's really 15 plus a negative 9, right? But we're not going to write it with 2 signs anymore. We're not going to write it with 2 signs anymore. We're not going to do this anymore. We just got to know that in our head. We know that that's really 15 plus a negative 9, okay? But we're not going to write it with 2 signs. We're just going to start lumping that minus in there with that term, okay? You can't lose that. That's critical. So 15 minus 9. So Z goes here. 15 minus 9 is what? It's a positive 6, right? So my expression is Z plus 6. Go stand at my body. Z plus 6. Questions? All right. I want you to take 2 minutes and do 3 and 4. If you're on video, I want you to take a minute, pause the video, pause video, do number 3 and 4, and then when you're done, start the video back up and see how you did. I'm going to pause this. Number 3. Let's jump in right. All right, 13M plus 25 plus M. 13M plus 25 plus M. I do not know why my board is throwing in these random colors like this, but we just got to go with it. I can fix it like that, but then it doesn't. All right. So let's sort this into our variables and our constants. Our variables are what? 13M and M. And what's my constant?
25.
So 13M plus M is how much? How much? Really?
13.
14.
What? Why is it 14M?
Because if you just got
What's the one equal?
If you got
I mean,
one,
what's the M equal?
M
We don't know.
equals 1
How do you know that?
because it don't got no other one. It's just 1 M.
It's just one M. How many M's you see?
One.
One. Remember that the number 1 is the superhero and he's invisible? Remember? Huh?
No.
Do y'all remember? The number 1 is the superhero. He's invisible. There's an invisible 1 sitting right there in front of that M.
So it's when it's 1 M, it's
If you have one variable, there is a invisible coefficient of 1 in front of it. If you have one X, there is an invisible 1 in front of it. If there's one C, there's an invisible 1 in front of it. Okay? Unlike up here, this one showed the 1. You don't have to, 99.9% of the time, you will never see a 1 in front of a variable. You have to just know it's there. Okay? So, 13M and 1M is how much? 14M plus 25. Did you get that? Okay. Number 4. Y equals Y plus 50 minus 15. We sort this into variables and constants. Jaden, what's the coefficient of that Y? 1. Very good. That's 1Y. Then I have a 50 and a negative 15 over here. Did y'all remember to put that negative with that 15?
Yes.
Very good.
Negative.
Yes, kid.
This has to lump together because this is really plus a negative 15. That's really plus a negative 15, but we're not going to keep writing it with 2 signs. We're going to just write it, we're going to lump it together like this. Okay? We don't have to write it with 2 signs. Y'all want to, now if you want to do that extra step, if you want to do the extra work and rewrite everything as addition, I can make you. Do you want to do the extra work?
No.
Or do you want to just know that that's really a plus a minus 15 and lump that sign in there? Do you want to lump it together or do the extra work?
Lump it.
Okay, well you got to know what you're doing and you got to know when to do it.
What you had to say?
This minus 15 is really plus a negative 15. You remember when we had to write everything? Remember when if the answer is no, KCO? Do you remember that? That's what we're doing. But we're doing it in our head now. We're not doing it on paper. Why would you waste the time rewriting that when you can just include that minus that's sitting out there? And say, I know that minus sign means to K. I know that minus sign is going to make that 15 a negative. Okay? I don't want to KCO it. I don't want to have to do that step again. So, let's just call it a negative 15 and be done with it. Okay? So, this is Y. 50 minus 15.
35.
Plus 35. Questions? Anybody? All right, let's jump. All right, let's go ahead and look at number 5. And I think once we do number 5, I can let y'all have it. Number 5. 15M plus 12N plus 5M minus 3N. Now, do we have any constant terms here?
No.
No, but what do we have? All right. So, that's what you're saying? So if we sort this, so she said, what if the 12N and the 12N and negative 3N were in different places? We have 15M, a negative 3N, a 5M, and a 12 in. This is where, guys, in your calculators, put a -3 plus 12. Because that's a -3 and a positive 20. So put in -3 plus 12. You know the sign right here is a plus, right?
No. 9 in.
-3 plus 12.
74.
All right, listen. If it's not coming on, take the cover off the back. Take your pencil. There's a reset button.
Baby, how you say coming on?
If it's not coming on, take the cover off the back. Take your pencil point. There's a reset button. Push it in there. Just push it in. Take it out. And on the front, it's gonna say memory cleared.
I got 74.
-3 plus 12 in. I mean, -3 plus 12.
There you go.
Huh? It's not, no, there's no way, baby. Did you do times? Let me, clear it.
I got 20. I got 20.
I get one.
Oh, my bad.
Guys, you're gonna get 9. You're gonna get 9.
I said that.
Put negative, the negative symbol is down the side. Put in -3 plus, not a minus sign, a negative. It's a negative. -3 plus 12.
Yep.
No.
Don't use the minus sign. Also, here's what I want you to do real quick. You ready? Hit the second button, the green second button. Everybody, hit the green second button. Then I want you to hit the 0. And then I want you to hit the number 2. And it should say memory cleared. Second 0, 2. Second 0, 2. That resets it and clears the memory. Okay, we ready? One more, and then I'm going to give it back to you. I'm going to do number 18. I'm going to do number 18. So, Olivia, to answer your question, you would get the same answer. But here's what I'm going to tell you, guys. There are some things about the integers, but when you get down and start having to do this computation, don't rely on your mashed potato brains to remember all of it. I need you putting it in the calculator. Because if you mess up a sign, it's wrong. Because it's the number 9 and the number -9 sitting in the same place on the number line. 9 and -9. Are they sitting in the same spot?
No.
9 and -9. Are they the same color?
No.
No. They're not the same number. 9 and -9 are not the same number. Okay? So that's not an answer. That's all right. Number 18. 4a plus 13b minus 2a plus 2b plus 25. All right. Now, this one has variables and constants. Do we have how many variable terms do you see?
2.
2. All right, so my tree map's gonna look a little different. It's gonna be a 3-leg because I've got variable terms A, variable terms B, and then I've got constants. Right? So now we're ready to sort. 4A, a 13B, a -2A, a 2B, and then a 25. Does that make sense? 4A minus 2A is 2A. 13 plus 2B is 15B. That's a positive 15B. And then a positive 25. We're going to take all those signs. And so our answer is 2A plus 15B plus 25.
Oh.
All right. I need you to get this finished. Actually, I'm going to take just a minute and I'm going to bring you, go ahead and keep working on this. I'm fixing to bring you this other one and we're going to, all right, so I'm going to do, this is distributive property breakout. This is going to be distributive property and then we're going to be combining our like terms, okay? So look at number 1. This is 6 times 1 plus 5m, okay? Now we know how to do the distributive property. 6 times 1 is what?
I didn't want those papers.
Oh, I'm sorry. 6 times, we've got to distribute across the parentheses. So 6 times 1 is? 6. And 6 times 5 is? And that's all there is. There's nothing else we can do, is there? No like terms. No like terms, okay? That's number 1. Number 3. 9 times 1 minus r plus 3r. We got to distribute our 9. 9 times 1?
9.
9 times a minus r?
9r.
Negative 9r plus 3r. Once I'm done distributing, I can get rid of the parentheses, right? So now do I have any like terms?
No.
All right, so now let's sort. I have a minus 9r, I have a 3r, and I have a 9. Right? Is everybody with me? So minus 9r and 3r. If you put a negative 9 plus 3 in your calculator, you're going to get a negative 6r plus 9. Questions? Okay. So, number 5. 3 times 8x minus 5 plus 10 times 10 minus x. We got to do the distributive property first, okay? 3 times 8 is 24x. 3 times 5, negative 5 is a negative 15. Plus 10 times 10 is 100. 10 times a minus x is a minus 10x. Is everybody with me on that? Anybody have a question about where we are right now? All I did was my distributive property, okay? Now we're going to combine our like terms. So I've got a 24x, a minus 15, a 100, and a minus 10x. 24x minus 10x is 14x. Negative 15 plus 100 is 85. So my expression is 14x plus 85. My simplified expression. You got it? Now keep in mind, you will have this video. You can go back and go to, if you need to kind of stop it and start it and pause it and kind of, because if you notice, the problems on the left are the same. The problems on the right are very similar to the ones on the left. So as you're working through this for homework tonight, you'll be able to go back and watch the video to help you a little bit if you need to, okay? All right, so has everybody got this? I'm going to clear it to do the number 7. All right, because there is something very special about number 7. And I'm going to do it in a different color because it is very special. So, negative 10 times 1 minus p minus 3p minus 7. Now we have said we know that this right here is really a plus a negative P, right? But we don't have to write it that way anymore, right? We don't have to KCO it, do we? And we know that this is really plus a negative 7. But we don't have to KCO it, do we? Well, guess what, guys? This is also, that minus sign is also plus a negative something. What is it? Our superhero is hiding again. It's a negative 1. This is plus a negative 1. So right here, there is a 1 hiding. Anytime you see this, there is a negative 1 sitting there. Okay? Anytime you see minus parentheses, there is a negative 1 sitting there. That is a something you're going to have to remember for the rest of your life in math. It is going to come back to haunt you in every grade from here on out. Okay? Don't forget it. Put it into your long-term rememberers. All right? So now that we know, I'm just going to kind of mark those out because we know what that means. That's a negative 1. We can now distribute. Okay? We can now distribute. So negative 10 times 1 is a negative 10. Negative 10 times a minus P is plus 10P. Because a negative times a negative is a positive. When you are distributing, when you're doing the distributive property, don't forget about Dorito Man. Alright? Negative 1 times 3P is a negative 3P. And negative 1 times a negative 7 is plus 7. Signs are critical when you're doing this because it's going to mess you up in the end. You're going to get the wrong expression. Your expression may be right with the wrong signs. Does that make sense? All right. So now, let's sort. We have a 10P. A negative 10 goes over here. A negative 3P goes here. And a 7 goes here. Is everybody with me? This 7P minus 3. So my answer, 7P minus 3. Questions? No? Now, you need to finish both of these for homework. I mean, you got about 6 minutes to work on them now, and then you will finish the rest for homework. Okay? You can work on either one.